Well, good morning, everybody, and welcome to Monday Coffee. This week, what I want to share with you, some of the inspiration and that I have for you and that has been for me. But it's also going to be really hard because it's going to be a time of trying to be vulnerable with you and also trying to have you guys understand to be vulnerable with yourselves. So what I want to talk about today for this week is that I want to talk to you about how I realize that I am racist. Now, this has been going on for a couple of weeks, the protests for George Floyd, and one of the things that I see for white people, we often get very offended if we get labeled racist, because it feels like a death mark almost, that now you're labeled a racist and you cannot change from that at all. But guess what? It's not a permanent status, right? It's something that you can change. Now, one of the things that has been helpful through all this, and we're all on different places, areas of the spectrum on this whole topic and what is going on, and some of us are in different places than others. Some of us are way over here, some of us are over here, and we're not ready to move over here. And that's okay, and I want to give you permission to have grace for yourself and understand that. But one of the ways that has helped me to think about this is to understand we are all racist in some way. We all have our prejudice in some way. And so to understand that and to understand that is just a part of us helps us to understand that instead of calling people racist or putting it on people like that, we can say we are trying to be anti-racist because we all understand that we have our own prejudices. So with that, in my experience, through my own personal journey, what has been interesting for me is to realize slowly over time the ways that I have been prejudiced and racist. I grew up on a small farm in Iowa, and maybe 0.01% black community out there. It was pretty much white. And I moved to college in the Chicago area, and that's really my first encounter with friends who were black and in the African American community. What I understood through that process of college and even after that was that there were probably times in college with my black friends that I said some pretty ignorant things that I thought was funny, but actually was perpetuating racism. And throughout those experiences, and one experience in particular that I talked about with Edmund in my interview with him a couple weeks ago was when I came back to our dorm room and Edmund and some of his friends were together, and obviously they were upset. One of their friends had gotten stopped by a cop because he was jogging at night in a particularly white neighborhood. And at that moment, that was one of the first moments that made me think things are different for them, for Edmund and James and Harold, than they are for me. And this opened up a whole thing. And maybe for you, it's something as simple as learning about somebody who is black and they grew up and their parents told them how to act around cops a certain way that as white people, we don't even think about. There's going to be different points of reference and points of awakening for each of us. And still, what I notice is even during my experience in Chicago, then I moved to Michigan, West Michigan, and then to here to Denver, both primarily white places. And what I've noticed when we go on mission trips with our youth group, if we're in a predominantly black area, I all of a sudden feel the anxiety rise in me because of all of the different ways that we are fed into our minds that black people are bad or dangerous. Whether it's movies, TV shows, the news, that they are perpetually viewed as thugs or people that are just looking to steal, things like that. And I notice that now when I get into a place of predominantly black people that, since I'm not around a lot of black people all the time, I felt that anxiety rise and that fear. And I recognize that racism in me. So here's the hope I have. The fact that we can be aware of that stuff in us and in our lives can help us start the path of being allies to those people of color around us. And particularly, awareness is the first place to start. stop deflecting and stop saying, I am not racist, because we all believe we're not racist in some way. We all believe we don't try to be racist against people, but we have it. It's just in us. It's part of that original sin. If we talk about original sin, that we are all fallen and broken right away as we enter this world, then we are all racist, right? But even besides that, I want to go even further back, that there was original blessing. That when God created us, when he created Adam and Eve, that we were blessed. It was good. So we have started in the place of goodness. So we need to find our way back to that goodness that God created us to be. And part of that is confronting the systems of racism and the racism in ourselves and being okay with the fact that that happens and to continue to fight it and to be anti-racist. The early disciples in the church had to deal with this too. In Acts 15, they had the Jerusalem Council where they were talking about if Gentiles could be part of the religion because most of them were Jewish. And so there was this race shift in trying to decide if they could accept people or not. So it's part of our Christian history. We need to continue to fight. We need to continue to understand and be better. And first of all, that hope for me, for all of you, is that we can accept and be awakened to the ideas that we have racism built into us. And once we are aware of that, we can help our brothers and sisters in ways that we couldn't before because we are blind. Have a great week.